think I got it.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Youth Ministers Unite. It is so great to be with you one last week.
Sad.
It's so sad, but this is our last video that we're probably going to do together, probably not, but that we said we were going to do for sure. And it is because this Sunday is Pentecost. So what stands out to me this weekend is because it's Pentecost, we always think about, or I always think about, the tongues of fire. So I want to just take you to this gospel message, and it says that this great wind comes, and then there's this tongue of fire that lands on all of them. I mean, if this happened to each and every one of you at your Thanksgiving dinner, you'd be like, oh, get the fire extinguisher! Like, they'd be freaking out, right? But these apostles were not afraid. Even though they've been afraid, every reading we've had for these last 7 weeks, the apostles are afraid, they're locking themselves in the upper room, they're leaving, they're going back to the regular things that they were comfortable doing. But right now, these tongues of fire land on them. And they're not afraid at all. They're not afraid of being burned. They're not afraid of anything, because what does Peter do? He walks outside, and because of his proclamation of the good news, the powerful words that he says to these people, 3,000 people are converted. 3,000! Can you imagine that? 3,000 people being baptized on the spot because the Holy Spirit was working and moving through St. Peter.
So when I was reading this reading, I started to think about fire and how right now we're seeing a lot of fires burning down buildings and how terrible it is to see something like that. But when I read this reading, we see a fire which is good. The Holy Spirit is good. And, you know, the Feast of Pentecost is the undoing of what happened at the Tower of Babel, where all the languages came into existence, and now people couldn't understand each other, and there was confusion and chaos. And now we have Pentecost. It's an undoing of the separation of these languages, and it just shows the power of the Holy Spirit to bring clarity into our lives. I think right now with everything that's happening in our world, there can be a lot of confusion, and we need the Holy Spirit in order to have clarity, in order to see what the truth is and how to have peace and calm in our hearts. So I encourage you guys to call upon the power of the Holy Spirit to bring clarity into our hearts, into our minds during this time in our world.
So this weekend, since it's Pentecost, my challenge for you is, for those of us that have been confirmed, we received the 7 gifts of the Holy Spirit: wisdom, understanding, knowledge, which help us realize who God is, why He's done what He's done, and who He wants us to be. And then we have fortitude, counsel, piety, and fear of the Lord, which help us to act correctly, interact with each other, and ultimately become the saints we're called to be. And so my challenge for you is to think about which gift you need more of, and then ask God for it. Maybe you want to be more bold in speaking the truth. Maybe you want to know God more fully. So ask for knowledge. Before that, ask for fortitude, because that's the spirit of courage, right? And so my challenge is just to pray and ask the Holy Spirit to give you that spirit, that gift, more abundantly than He already has at your confirmation. And if you haven't been confirmed, that's okay, because you get the Holy Spirit at baptism too, so you can still ask for one of those gifts of the Holy Spirit.
My challenge for you guys is to pray for an outpouring of a personal Pentecost on your own life. We see the disciples, they were in fear, they didn't want to go out, they didn't want to go share their faith, but when the Holy Spirit came upon them, they went and they evangelized the whole entire world. So my challenge for you guys this week is each day to pray for the coming of the Holy Spirit, that there might be a personal Pentecost in your own life.
So what you're saying is, if I pray hard enough, I will get a tongue of fire over my head?
Yeah. I'll pay someone to bring a little lighter.
Maybe if I just put enough hairspray on, I could light my hair on fire.
And it'll never grow back.
You don't think so? That's what happens?
That's what happens.
I probably need hair. I think I would.
You don't need it.
I mean, look at how big my forehead is without hair. It's pretty big.
I have no comments.
Oh, wait. Yes. Oh, that's hot.